Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Juvo Hub podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Sarr. We are on part 3 of our special series on the property management journey. Dr. Debbie Phillips, welcome again to the show. So nice to have you with us for this special series for our audience. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic, and I can't wait for us to start talking about career exploration.
Me too. Part 1, we talked about the foundation. Part 2, we talked about continuing education. Here we are to part 3 of this series and really focusing on that career. What does it look like? How do you get there? What should you do? We know that you have all of the answers with all of your amazing experience, and we're grateful. We're looking forward to hearing your comments on. Our audience is like, okay, it's amazing. You think back just a few decades ago, and we had a generation of people that would start a job, and often that was their job their whole career. That's it, one job, never changed, 30, 40, 50 years and retiring. It's a bit of a different dynamic that we have in this day and age. And so it's super important to talk about how you can explore your career path. So let's kick it off. Debbie, please talk to us about what does that mean? Why does someone look at the diversity that there is in a career path? Thinking outside the box is a term. What's your opening statement when it comes to looking at all of the different career paths that are available to people?
Well, I always like to start out, and thank you again for inviting me to be part of this conversation. And, Jonathan, my mother gave me some wise guidance one time, or some encouragement. She said, Debbie, pick a career that doesn't have an expiration date. And that really resonated with me because housing is essential to life.
Yeah.
And I think about it because there are so many diverse career opportunities that, spring out of and exist because of housing. And I'm looking at some of my notes now, and I want to encourage our listeners to visit a website, www.buildingcareers.org. And when you think about careersbuildingcommunities.org, I want to go back and give you the correct, it's www.careersbuildingcommunities.org. And Jonathan, you can post that in the show notes.
Sure.
But that one stop shop, that one website, if you go on that website, you'll see an interactive map. That website was created because when you drive by a building or an apartment community, you don't automatically think about the diverse career opportunities, like who had to design the place, who created, who put the infrastructure in, who did the interior design, who put the gate around the pool, who created that beautiful outdoor space. There are so many career opportunities that really relate to one type of development. And then when you think about commercial, industrial, and residential, that opens the floodgates even more to career opportunities. And so one thing too, Jonathan, that I would like to post in the show notes is some research by Christopher Lee and Associates. And he recently, CEL and Associates, posted in Units Magazine, March of 2024, a industry compensation report.
Okay.
And I would love to share that with our audience. And it's not all about the money, but when we talk about career changers and we talk about people that want to go from a branch manager in a bank, what would be a transferable position that they could go into the apartment community? And I said, well, a great place to start is what? An assistant manager. We have to do customer service in a bank. Well, guess what? We have to do customer service in an apartment community. So
Hmm.
when we talk about, the opportunities that exist in property management, whether you're a student or a career changer, you need to think about what are those transferable skills that exist. And going back to careersbuildingcommunities.org, that website, if you go under the tab Explore the Industry, or you even go under the Educators tab, you'll see great places to start, whether you have a high school degree or you have an advanced post secondary degree. You can see a selection of career opportunities there.
Okay. Well, those are some amazing resources. That is a great place for our audience to start and really kind of map it out. Nice visual. So thank you for sharing those resources with us. I want to take us back just for a minute. On our last two episodes on this series, you really talked a lot about making sure you know who you are, developing your skills. Don't just jump into something because it's an opportunity. Make sure you know who you are and find something that's going to be a good fit for you. But at the same time, there's a whole big world out there in the industry. So how do you strike a balance between the two? How does a professional who is, navigating their career lattice in property management, how do they remain adaptable and give themselves some space to explore?
Well, I think one of the very, first places to start is attending events, because if you can attend some events, and you can sometimes pay as a member if you're a member or a non-member, but I have always found it to be a wise investment, even paying a one class fee, as a person that's always wanting to learn and to take in information. I always love to go to market uh, events where they're talking
Mhm.
about what's happening in the current market. I know, Jonathan, you and I are a member of the Institute of Real Estate Management, and some of the most meaningful events that I go to is hearing from a cross section of leaders talking about what's going on in their particular niche in the industry. So I would say, I talk about professional agility. Okay. And to be agile, you have to be what? You have to be curious. You have to be flexible. You have to think about what is the current uh, landscape, or what is the temperature of the market. Right now we are seeing increasing interest rates, so we're seeing people what? Staying put. They're postponing their relocation for a short period of time. So what does that mean for a person's career? Well, number one, taking care of where residents live now. And you always think about another, trend right now is aging in place, home modification. People are trying to retrofit their home because they're trying to make it accessible for maybe an aging parent. There's so many different opportunities that exist, but I believe in blooming where you're planted, but also thinking about what is the market demanding. The market is demanding collaboration. The market is demanding energy efficiency, because what? Operating costs are going up. So you have to be curious about what is happening in the current marketplace, and then think about your career and where you fit in solving those problems.
Okay. Yeah. As always, sound advice in an industry that continues to change. The way the certain job positions were handled even just a few years ago are being handled in a completely different way because of technology, needs, sector, location, so on and so forth. So thank you for that sound advice. Now, as I'm listening to you, I'm putting myself in the shoes of that individual. So it's like, okay, I'm the property management professional. I started out my career in leasing. Now I'm a manager. The next step might be a regional, but it's just, I've always been interested in asset management. I've always been interested in development, and I've taken courses. I've gotten some certifications to make that a left turn, so to speak, in my career. But I'm scared. It's a big leap. I've been doing this for 5 years, 10 years already. Any advice for how to overcome those feelings and feeling confident in making that adjustment in a career?
Well, Jonathan, we could do a whole podcast episode on strengthening your mental muscle. Okay. Fear holds us back. And what is
Mm-hmm.
fear? Fear, it can be, forget everything and run. Fear can mean false evidence appearing real. I mean, I have about 4 or 5 other acronyms for fear.
Yeah.
But at the bottom line, you got to advocate for yourself. But one of
Yeah.
the best places to start thinking about your career lattice or changing lanes on that superhighway is to think about internally. The top companies today have this mantra of promoting from within. The
Mm-hmm.
people that you work around first know you best. So start in your own company advocating for yourself, raising your hand, going to lunch with the development department, going to lunch with the risk management or the construction department. Start where you are first and look for added opportunities. And you're like, oh, Dr. Debbie, my plate's full. I can't take on anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely can take on something else if you're hungry for it. And that goes back to your old mental, your whole mental mindset. But look for opportunities in your own company first. And if that doesn't produce the fruit that you want, start net weaving. I use a term called net weaving, not networking. Networking is transactional, net weaving is transformational. I
Mm-hmm.
would go to our industry events, I would attend luncheons, I would attend workshops, and then I would start putting my own request out there in my circles of influence. Say, hey, I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I'm curious about this particular position. I've explored some positions internally, but I'd like to also see what's out there. Do you know of anything in your company? And that goes back to personal branding. When you have an impeccable brand, somebody's going to take your name into that meeting. But if you don't have an impeccable brand, no one is going to share that brand. It's just like us sharing our favorite restaurant. We're happy to share our favorite restaurants based on the service and the quality and the price and all of that. So you got to compete on your own personal brand and look for those opportunities. But again, I'm going to go back to episode number 1. If you can't communicate, if you don't know what your strengths are, if you haven't created a vision board for yourself, you can't articulate that.
Right.
So I always tell everybody, if I'm going to help you, I need for you to come with a compelling why should I help you? And then you can start investigating those other career paths.
Yeah. Very nice. I, so it takes me back to some things that I've noticed on LinkedIn. And I've talked about this in sessions I've taught before about personal branding. And it's the art of reciprocity. And you highlighted that. It's like, okay, if you're involved in a platform such as LinkedIn, or if you're involved in volunteering for your local chapter or your apartment association, can we dive into that just a little bit more? Like when you are giving, when you are in service to the industry, what benefits have you seen when it comes to to this topic, exploring your career path. Is that and is that of benefit, if giving of yourself to the industry in that way?
Well, absolutely. I will tell you that I always believe that, when you give more, you get more.
Hmm.
And I will tell you this, you have to have um, etiquette. You have to understand business etiquette. And we could do a whole session on this too. When people want to invest in people that are confident, and I didn't say cocky, and I said somebody that's confident in knowing who they are. So somebody that is has strong emotional intelligence, and someone that is not a scorekeeper, but someone approaches something from a generous heart and wants to be a part of something good, people will take you seriously when you've done the work. The only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. I look at who's doing the work, and who's doing the work with a grateful and generous heart. See, out of your heart comes everything.
Yes.
And if your heart is not in it, you're going to have a poor quality. But if you give of your time and your talents and your treasure in a really meaningful and intentional way, success is bound to happen. You have to have perseverance. You have to understand that you can't take things personally. You may
Hmm.
get, 10 no's before you even get a maybe. But you have to have that strong emotional fortitude that says, you know what, I'm committed to this. I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to be humbly confident. I'm willing to listen. And I'm willing to come and help. People love to have help.
Hmm.
And we see that all in our industry. We have a very generous industry.
Yeah. And time again, we're able to filter out those who are just in it for themselves versus those who truly are in a position to give to the community, give to the industry. And then, because of that track record of investing in others when there's a need in their world, it's just amazing. It is simply amazing to see how much their network, our peers, our friends, rally to provide that assistance, because that's that's been their track record. It's just part of who they are. It's very intentional, as you use that word a lot. And we are very grateful. So thank you for that. Thank you for that advice. An appropriate way to kind of wrap up this series is, we've talked about some fundamentals, we've talked about some resources, but the common theme between all three of these episodes is, what are you doing? What are you doing with yourself? How would you wrap up this series, my friend? The journey in property management. What's your closing comments for our audience?
Well, whether it be episode one, two, or three, you are the CEO of YOU.
Hmm.
And I always tell people that when you are thinking about where you are and where you want to get to, I want you to think about who's around you, controlling your environment. What are you investing in yourself and in others? And the other thing that I want to say is, when you get very clear about what you want, and I want all of our listeners to write the word clarity down, you know, learning to say no is important, because every time you say no, you're saying yes to something else. Say
Hmm.
yes to your success. Say yes to, I'm going to be, so committed to the, you know, development, my own professional development, that I have no time to criticize somebody else. Stay in your swim lane. Develop your God given gifts because
Mhm.
there's enough sun for everybody. And you don't have to have a mindset of scarcity, have a mindset of abundance. Help others win. And
Yeah.
Jonathan, that's what you and I have done today. We are devoted to each other. We're dedicated to advancing the professionalism within our industry. And certainly to all of our listeners, Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to see the next step. And that's what these episodes that Jonathan, these programs that Jonathan has produced, the intent is for you to see your next step, whether it be on a career ladder or on a career lattice. We are here to equip you with the resources and the tools and the people that can help you get to where you want to go. So, Jonathan, thank you for just allowing me to share my heart today.
Yeah. And it's an amazing heart, my friend. I'm very, very grateful to have you on the show again. It's always an amazing privilege. We have a good time whenever we're together. And yes, for our audience, if this is your first time hearing Dr. Debbie, please connect with her on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. We're always here to help. Yes, that's what the Juvo Hub podcast is all about, trying to serve our industry and give as much resources as possible as you develop your career. So again, Dr. Debbie, with humble and heartfelt gratitude, thank you very, very much for being part of
Thank
this
you.
special series. We're grateful to you and grateful to all that you do for our amazing industry. And for
Thank you.
our audience, thank you for taking the time out of your day to invest in yourself. As our dear friend Dr. Debbie says often, taking that time is so, so important. We appreciate you being here. We look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Until next time, class dismissed. Take care, everyone.